It is just a world-class team of artists working together. So every frame is just so beautifully lit.
I had a ball. Okay, so
Okay,
again,
we have to argue about this then.
yeah. Okay, I saw grandmothers with their children, so it was just 3 generations
Amazing.
watching together.
He's going out on a limb, right?
Yeah, that's true.
He's trying something new. I just hope it comes together. Hey everyone, you're watching The Late Take. I'm Anupama Chopra.
I'm Anmol Jamwal.
And we're going to talk about PS1, Vikram Vedha, and a few other films that Anmol has seen. I haven't caught, but it's going to be a lot of fun. Let's dive straight into Ponniyin Selvan.
Yes.
Anmol, first of all, which version did you see?
Okay, I did see the Tamil version.
Nice. You were smarter than me.
And I was lucky to have English subtitles in one of the PVRs that I went to. What I did do when the trailer came out was everybody was like, you have to have an idea at least of the universe because it is so dense. It is 6 parts. So what I did, and it's a dumbed down version of course for me, was an audiobook by Amit Bhargav. He's done for Ponniyin Selvan.
I've heard a couple of chapters.
Yeah,
it's quite lovely.
Quite lovely,
yeah.
And he's done it really well, and it got me really interested in the characters and the world building. So that led to a wormhole of reading about the characters, so I had context before going in. I have to say that from the comments that I've read with my review and everything, there is definitely a huge difference between those who had context versus those who were going into the universe when they watched the film. I absolutely loved the scale that Mani Ratnam brought to this, and I think you can expand upon it much better than me about the costumes and just
beautiful.
How every frame looked so beautiful.
It was beautiful. It was staggering. I mean, his craft and his artistry and the team that he's got here. You know, Ravi Varman and Shikhar Prasad and Thota Tharani and of course A.R. Rahman. It is just a world-class team of artists working together. So every frame is just so beautifully lit.
It was, and you know, to see Aishwarya Rai,
she was staggering.
She, you know, the constant awe that Vandya Devan had when he was with her, I sensed it. I felt it.
We felt the same.
She looked flawless.
Yeah.
And I feel like catching that rage in her eyes, especially the fact that I had sort of a context of who Nandini is and why she's such an important character, I thought Aishwarya Rai was phenomenal in the film. And for me, who definitely like rode the waves of making the journey engaging was Karthi as Vandya Devan. I thought he was really charming.
He was charming. He was lovely.
You know, he had a great ease to the way he was interacting with characters, and I was invested. I do have to say that, you know, keeping aside expectations, because I knew this is not going to be what is considered as mass cinema. This is not going to be your RRRs and KGFs. This is Mani Ratnam, who's going to stick to what Kalki's adaptation was, and what I felt was that at least the action sequences could have been choreographed a bit better. Especially when you go to Ponniyin Selvan, the character, I felt like the Lanka battle or even the integration of Kaveri's character, his origin story with his mother, when she comes in the elephant.
Yeah.
I thought the staging of a lot of those scenes were rushed and kind of clunky. But I felt what a lot of people said was that it was slow. For me, it was rapid. I thought like every character got like 3 scenes, and that would have been tough for people to be like emotionally invested in each character. Yeah. Did you feel that way?
For me, that was the issue. So I did the homework as well.
Okay.
Right? Because that's just who we are. we do the homework, right? Which of course you cannot expect other people to do, right? Why should you? It shouldn't be a requirement for any movie. But you know, I haven't heard there's 57 episodes of the podcast. Haven't heard them all, but I read up on it. I knew who the characters were, what sort of mota kahani kya hai, right? I saw the Hindi dub.
Okay.
And I think that, and I'm still trying to understand why it would lose magic in the Hindi dub, but it just does.
It does.
You know, and it really does.
I can't say this enough for especially from what I've heard from people is Vikram's character.
He was fantastic.
He's fantastic, but apparently what I've heard is that the Hindi dub has not even closely captured like his delivery.
Right.
So when you're looking when you're looking at a man shouting in the air just to nature
just
of
rage,
just rage and angst, I feel like that communicated way better in Tamil than in Hindi, and I think it does water down the emotions 100%.
Yeah, so I felt, Anmol, that because our audience who we speak to is largely North, I felt like they would go to the Hindi dub, and perhaps that's the one I should review, right? But for me, again, what it did was that it did. I knew, so I wasn't lost.
Yeah.
I knew what the narrative beats were and all of that. But I just felt like there was never enough time to let anything marinate, to let any emotions develop, for us to get to know any character. It was like one thing after the other, one thing after the other. It's so fast that because you're not emotionally invested, it becomes slow.
Yeah. And ma'am, it's spot on because the first 3 episodes of that audiobook is Vandya Devan on the horse just noticing
looking at the
things around
river.
him.
Yes.
So the fact that it's passed off, say, in 3 minutes, you know that a series over several seasons is the ideal nature where Ponniyin Selvan, I guess that we're in a nascent stage when it comes to that, of that investment required for a project over several seasons. To have a Game of Thrones or a Ponniyin Selvan's is the Game of Thrones, whatever Mani sir said to you.
He said Game of Thrones is perhaps the English Ponniyin Selvan.
And precisely so. And I felt like I totally empathize with what you felt as well. It was 3 scenes, main characters, Vandya Devan, new location.
Correct.
3 characters again.
Yeah.
So, I mean, to condense it in a 2-part movie,
it's a task.
It is
right?
a task.
First of all, just look at what Mani Ratnam as a director is looking at. I mean, there's 5 volumes of a book. It has to become a 2-parter film. You have to obviously please the purists who have, been reading this for generations.
Yeah.
The actors I spoke to were talking about how their fathers were the original fans of this novel. But you also have to talk to people like us. I mean, truthfully, I had not heard of Ponniyin Selvan before Mani announced the film. So it's just such a tough...
It is a tough task.
How do you check all those boxes off? And he's done a fabulous job. It's just, I felt I wasn't emotionally moved or aroused enough. But by the end of it, I was into it and I was like, man, I cannot wait for part 2.
100%. And I have to tell you, like, for me, Aditya Karikalan and Nandini, that's like
the
for
spine.
Me the most spine, and even her face off with Kundavai, with Trisha's character, those are the moments that especially people who say read it or have context to it really look forward to. And ma'am, I think this was after a really long time I saw grandmothers with their children, so it was just 3 generations watching together. So I think it is a special time for that population, the Tamil Nadu population, because they've been really looking forward to it.
But in contrast, when I went to the Hindi dub, there weren't a lot of people there, but the people who were there, a couple who I talked to, they didn't understand. They were like, we didn't get who was fighting who and for what. 100%.
And with all due respect to Ponniyin Selvan, I remember murmurs that people told me about when they saw the Hindi dub, when, say, Kaveri is coming, hey, Jalpari kahan se aa gayi? Those were the kind of comments which were happening because they couldn't have, their bearings weren't there of the characters coming in and out.
It's a tough one, but it is a sort of exquisite.
It is. I am stoked for part 2, so I can't wait.
Me too. I mean, with all my sort of struggles with it, but I cannot wait to see part 2, and there is no sort of argument about what a master craftsman Mani Ratnam is.
It's his biggest hit, man. Can you imagine?
I love that.
Decades of working in films.
I mean, 30, 40 years he's been doing this, and with he was making Nayakan 3 decades ago, and he's still making world-class cinema, which is just fantastic. I hope the second one is more, I don't know what the word is, sort of more, not robust, but just more emotional.
It just draws you in.
It draws you in.
Yeah.
This one didn't draw me in as much as I would have liked it to.
No, I completely agree with that. Especially, I felt by the end of it, that cliffhanger in itself should have, for me, like a whoa moment.
Correct. Correct.
It didn't have it for me because I probably don't have that kind of connection with the source material.
Yeah.
But I am still very intrigued about how part 2 materializes.
How did Vikram Vedha go for you?
I had a ball. Okay. So
okay,
again,
we have to argue about this then.
Yeah. Okay. Again, people are going to call me out straight away because they call me a Hrithik fanboy. It is
and
what it is.
Are you?
100%. The reason why I got obsessed with films was Hrithik Roshan.
Really?
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
yeah.
Which one?
I mean,
Kahuna
Kahuna
Pyare
Pyare was it, and
but you must have been like an infant when
yeah,
Kahuna
but
Pyare released.
my mother tells me that I was dancing ever since he came on screen. So I've been obsessed with dancing also because of him and guys like Shahid who came after. But I have to say that for me, I was skeptical going in because I thought when the casting was announced, I assumed Saif would be Veda and Hrithik would be Vikram.
Correct.
I was pleasantly surprised on just his sheer conviction with what he thought Veda should be. I did not think that he's mimicking Vijay Sethupathi.
Not at all. He reinvented it.
I definitely think he made it his own.
Yeah.
My only gripe with the film was I did not connect with any of the supporting cast. Yeah. And especially the police officers were so forgettable for me, where even Saif's banter with them was just like rudimentary, passed along. It didn't have those building blocks for an eventual oh my god moment for the climax.
Correct. Which I think we can spoil now.
Yeah,
it's been a couple of days. All of them are corrupt, folks, in case you didn't know.
But, for me, the only thing that did sort of disconnect me from compared to the Tamil film was that it definitely, the Tamil film felt more rooted in where it was located. If you do a little bit of research, you'll know that a lot of the locations here are artificially created to transform you to Lucknow. So you can definitely feel that in the Hindi version. What I did feel that they did better was that Hrithik's connection with his younger brother. I thought that emotionally resonated with me more here than with Vijay's character.
How interesting. Yeah. Because it didn't do that for me at all. Okay. So for you, Anmol, the fact that you know the original did not get in the way, because for me that was a stumbling block because it's like frame by frame.
Throughout the thing, it is a frame by frame. Probably one or two tweaks with say like the kidnapping.
Correct. Very little.
Very little.
Very little.
And I have to say, it's tough to imagine Hrithik as the rugged gangster because he looked, especially in that young portion, very beautiful. Okay, he had like
he is very beautiful.
That chiseled jawline and that the toothpick in his mouth, and I was like, God damn, he looks so cool. But we're supposed to believe that he's in Lucknow in a kurta and fully rugged. Yeah. So I did eventually get invested in his interpretation of Veda. I definitely did feel that the supporting cast really let the film down because it was just a Hrithik Saif show, and at one point in time just a Hrithik show. Yeah. So I had a ball. I'm telling you, even when he was doing Alcoholia, I was like, what a guy, man. There is a...
Okay, you're blinded by love.
No, but I have to say, see, there's a debate about should Veda be dancing like that?
Sure.
Yeah.
Because that's not how Vijay Sethupathi did. It felt very organic.
Yeah,
the dance
he's just moving, right?
Yeah.
And I felt like, why would Hrithik do it if he didn't do it in Super 30? Right? He's a teacher. He doesn't get into a full main aisa kyun hu over there. Right. So, I guess I am a Hrithik fan, and I was invested in what he did. Yeah. But I definitely agree with the criticism as well that the original film was definitely more rooted in what it wanted to convey.
But it was also, Anmol, just more. I think the reinvention in this piece was purely Hrithik. Yeah. It was he's the only thing in the film which is startling and new and a completely fresh take. Yeah. He's unhinged and that is in fact was the hardest thing because Vijay Sethupathi had already aced it.
Yeah.
He had already sort of delivered the ultimate Veda. Then for Hrithik to reinvent Veda and do it so well, I thought was fabulous. I mean, he's really ferocious, he's charismatic, he's very wicked.
So you liked him?
I did like like him. No, I absolutely liked him.
Okay. I thought otherwise.
You were bringing the boxing
Yeah,
gloves.
I was like, what's going on over here?
You're like, आज तो इसको मारना ही पड़ेगा. No, I really liked him. For me, the problem was one that I know the beats of the story exactly. Like I know the first continuous shot that they did in that film, that they did in this film. I know exact. So for me, that was a stumbling block, and I kept thinking that maybe it's not seducing me because I know the original and I know exactly what the unpacking is going to be, right? Because so much of this film is about the new discoveries, which happens with every story that Vedha tells, which is not there for us because we've seen the Tamil one. But the other stumbling block, like you said, was the supporting cast. The brother and the sister didn't work for me. The Radhika's character, Radhika Apte as the wife, I felt there was no chemistry between her and Saif. And of course, there's very few scenes, but even in those few scenes, they weren't really able to establish a camaraderie or actual connection, you know, and Pulli, I thought Kadir in the original was so lovely, and so was Varalakshmi as Chandra, was such a feisty, dynamic woman. When she slaps him back, you're like, you know, you move back a little. She's so exciting. And
I'm glad they removed the stripping scene though.
Yes, that was a bit off. That was a bit off. But I'm saying, none of that comes through, and therefore in the end, it's just. Also, I really felt like Pushkar and Gayatri did pander to the stardom.
Okay.
You know, they didn't do it so. I mean, of course, even in the original, it's all very cool. It's lots of high-speed walking and this and that, and it's all very exciting. But here, especially in the climax, there's like, you know, Hrithik on a not in the climax, but in that other one. What's that called when you're hanging?
Ziplining.
Hrithik ziplining between buildings, and in the end, they're like both with these guns, and it's all very sexy. But beyond a point, I just felt like it didn't serve the narrative. You know, and I felt like because they're such big stars, and you know, that film I read was made in about 10 to 11 crores. And this one was made in 175.
So, you know, acting fees aside, I think that's one of the main reasons why people have been critical of it not being rooted. Is because there has been an effort made to probably create those sets. And that, you know, doesn't lend an authenticity which the original did.
Did you find the language odd?
I didn't. You know, that was one of my red flags when I saw the trailer, where I was like, oh my god, is this going to be another Super 30 where it's going to be incoherent in some cases and inconsistent? I didn't feel it here. You did?
I found like some of the words, like some of it was so formal. Hrithik's accent was so specific. So I felt like there wasn't any uniformity. I think it's perhaps because none of the characters really felt like they were from Lucknow. It just felt like it was a very... the Batti Gul effect. The bal is constantly being repeated. We're from Himachal, I swear. So I just wish. See, I think they're fantastic filmmakers. So I think they'll come back with something more exciting.
Sural, if you remember, it was great.
So good. It was so good. I just don't think they're filmmakers who need to repeat themselves.
That's also true. But I'm glad that they did it because I saw something else which we'll talk about later, which is just horrifying.
Off camera?
Yeah, off camera.
I love it.
But I have to tell you that there's a movie that I saw which, ma'am, I think you're going to watch it within a week because they're increasing shows, which is Kantara.
Absolutely. I'm desperately looking for shows which are all at some midnight in some remote location. I'm dying to see it.
Definitely the highlight for me this weekend. I remember I saw Garuda, Gamana, Vrishabha, Vahana because of you.
One of my favorite films.
And it's again a cast member, Rishabh Shetty. He's directed it, written it, he's starring in the lead role. And based around the Kambala festival over there, and their Bhuta Kolas, and a great mixture of just folklore and an action thriller.
How exciting.
And they've, you know, ma'am, I remember the interview that Anurag did with
Anurag Kashyap.
With Bhardwaj Rangan sir, about how a lot of the Hindi film stories are probably coming out of trial rooms. This is the people from the Mangalore, Udupi region, and you realize that these are the people that they interact and grow up with. So the fact that, you know, so many people are resonating with the content is because they're talking about people,
Yeah.
right? You know,
Yeah.
and I feel like they did a splendid job, ma'am. It's a visual treat.
Yeah,
and,
cannot wait.
It's definitely, it should be on your must-watch list.
It is. I'm going to see it as soon as I can. Before we get to comments, I know you did want to address Adipurush. Can you explain what's going on there?
And respectfully, of course.
Of course.
Yes, yes.
I'm really struggling with, because see, whatever I thought of Tanaji, his craft and his visuals were really like out there, really spectacular. You know, I'm not able to really understand what he's going for, what Omroth, the director, is going for here.
So, ma'am, I think one of the main reasons why Tanaji did work and why Brahmastra visually worked is because there's a combination of practical sets with visual effects. So you're mixing it.
Yeah.
You're not entirely dependent on each element other than the human being digitally created. So there is absolutely no scope for there being any natural environment. Yeah. So I feel like that has created a sense of it looking cartoonish, as people are pointing out, and I feel like it boggles my mind that a 500 crore project is visually looking like that.
What is that thing Saif is riding on?
I don't even know. I had a full discussion with my parents and they couldn't figure it out also.
Because for me, it's all from Amar Chitrakathas, right?
Yeah.
You know, I of course, like everybody else, read them as a kid, and I'm like, did I see anything like this in those Amar Chitrakathas? I never did.
And even, you know, ma'am, there's certain creative decisions which I'm just kind of confused by.
Yeah.
Whether it's Saif's haircut, whether it's Black Asgard behind him as Lanka, or so I'm just confused at this point of what
I'm
kind of interpretation
confused.
this is.
Yeah,
and I'm scared.
Well, I hope, because it's such a massive project, and you know, again, because I feel he's going out on a limb, right?
Yeah, that's true.
He's trying something new. I just hope it comes together. Because
I hope so.
This is not, I'm just confused. I'm like, what am I supposed to feel for this?
Maybe if you see it in 3D in a theater, you'll have a different experience.
I will take your word for it.
No, I was just kidding.
Okay, let's go to comments. From NK, this is for Vikram Vedha. Had to agree the Hindi version hasn't rooted to the soil. It feels so different with hero-centric highlights and not giving enough space to other characters who paved the way for the plot. Moreover, kudos to the brilliantly written work of directors. The script was awesome. I agree. The script is absolutely wonderful, which is what I said in my review, that the problem is that the script is so damn good that you can't change it. You can't tweak it in any way. You'll just mess it up.
And you know, ma'am, that I wanted from this film was, from at least the trailer, it seemed like it's going to be more gory, more violent. But even in that set piece of Saif versus Hrithik together, it's not choreographed well. Yeah. So the payoff also of these two stars colliding with one another doesn't reach that crescendo.
Yeah.
Anyway, this is Peacemaker, again for Vikram Vedha. One interesting detail left by the makers is that earlier in the movie, Saif is seen wearing a white polo shirt and Hrithik black, signifying good and evil. And as the movie progresses and Saif realizes the reality of the situation he is in, he is wearing a grey shirt. Interesting detail. I think that's the writing,
nice.
You know.
Yeah.
Slowly and steadily, you realize that the person's understanding it's not just black and white.
Correct.
I think it was really well done. Yeah.
But did you feel, for me, Anmol, my sort of go-to Saif performance for a haunted cop is Sacred Games.
Yeah. 100.
You know,
it's nowhere close.
It's nowhere close to that.
It's nowhere close.
I just felt like I never got a sense that he's becoming haunted by what he's seen.
And you know, I was also like Marmarke rooting for him.
Correct.
And I was not connecting with him. Being a Lucknow police officer, just chilling with the guys.
Yeah.
It didn't come across.
It didn't come across. It didn't connect.
Naturally.
Yeah. It didn't feel organic again.
Yeah.
You know. This is for PS1, Vishal V. The first half was spectacular, but second half felt a bit rushed and flat, except the final act. I loved Aishwarya Rai. The intensity and madness that Vikram brought to the role was great, and Karthi was amazing throughout the movie. I hope the titular character gets more layers in the second part. It just didn't evoke much emotions. Overall, it was a very enjoyable experience. Thanks to Mani Ratnam, I got introduced to this great Tamil literary work. Agreed. I agree. I think we all, us Nordies, we got introduced.
Uncultured.
Yes.
Yeah.
We got introduced and we hope to soak a lot more in with the second.
100%. I think we echo the same sentiment.
Yeah.
Nikhil again for PS1. The thing is, everyone nowadays is comparing RRR and KGF to every other film releasing. People need to understand that every film has its own vibe and aura. Ponniyin Selvan is definitely worth a watch. I definitely agree that the expectation kills everything.
Yeah.
If you want a film to be a particular way, you're never going to be fully invested in it in the first place. And I feel like Mani Ratnam's definitely made it his own rather than trying to mimic anything which he shouldn't have anyway.
He shouldn't have. You can't make RRR and KGF out of this material.
Yeah.
I mean, you have to, this is far more nuanced, it's more delicate, the relationships are much more complex. Those films are working on black and white.
Yeah.
You know,
it is.
And that's the beauty of it. They are, in that sense, much less about the complexity of human nature.
Yeah.
This entire piece is about how complicated people are. So, absolutely cannot do RRR and KGF, and just as well.
Just as well, 100%.
So, we will return, Anmol, after Diwali to talk about Ram Setu.
And thank God.
And thank God, and we hope they're good.
We hope so too.
Thank you everyone for watching.